We're at the Champlain Telephone Company Service Center on the Ridge Road in Champlain on a really decent day in September 2003. It looks like everybody in the North Country is here except Isabel, and she's one of the few people that weren't invited. Isabel, of course, is the hurricane that wrapped into the North Carolina, Virginia coast and then headed west. And even though rain and high winds were forecast, at least at this time of the day, 10 after 11 in the morning, we have only a light wind and beautiful sunny skies at about 71 degrees. This happens to be a special occasion. The 100th anniversary of the Champlain Telephone Company, and we're here to help them celebrate. I understand they've had 9 open houses so far, and I'm sure Calvin has been to every single one. As a matter of fact, we've done a number of television programs celebrating this wonderful small company here in the northern tier, which is gaining momentum around the whole North Country. We're going to talk to people and find out what this open house is all about as we celebrate 100 years for the Champlain Telephone Company on Hometown Cable. Calvin had to have me stand next to the skinniest guy in the building. I've been trying so hard. I can only hold it in for a minute.
You've done well, Gordy.
You're very kind of you to say that. And this is a medical man, so he knows. Dr. John Southwick, how are you, my friend?
I'm fine, Gordy. Thank you.
Last time you were interviewed, we were sitting around a table at CVPH Medical Center celebrating the 75th or silver anniversary of Physicians Hospital. We had a charming group. Well, most of them were pretty charming, of rodeo doctors, retired old doctors eating out.
Right.
Wasn't that a fun day, John?
That was really a fun day. You got a lot of good history, and I think you went. Did you go back and see A.B. de Grand Prix? Did you ever get back to talk to him?
We talked to A.B. on more than one occasion and did a number of programs because he has such wonderful memories.
Yeah.
He did a slideshow with 135 slides about his World War II experience, and I told Calvin, you know, I'm 30 years younger than he is almost, and I can't remember what I had for breakfast. He remembered the name of every person in every slide in every country, everything he did during his entire career. Whoa. So he put us all to shame. I think he's about 94 now, isn't he?
Yes, he is. Yeah.
Wonderful guy.
Amazing person.
Wonderful guy.
Yeah, he and George Clark. I don't know, did you ever interview George?
I don't think so.
Boy, a lot of history, you know, house calls and the North Country from day one, and he just knew everybody and knew everything about everybody.
You know what? I think John Southwick knows everything about everybody, and he's made a few house calls in his day.
I catch it in the office because we have some nurse practitioners, and they'll tell me about a patient, and I'll say, well, let me tell you about the background. They'll say, no, I don't want to hear. Let me find out myself. And I said, you don't know these things. Let me tell you.
Oh, isn't that wonderful?
Oh, it's good history.
Well, talk about history. The Champlain Telephone Company has been here for 100 years, and your dad had a big part in it.
Yeah, and my grandfather.
And your grandfather. Right. Tell us a little bit about the history, John.
Well, my grandfather, Morris Knapp, and 3 other people started the telephone company back in 1903. And at that time, they had this area, Moores, and then they had some lines over in Hemingford, Quebec, too. And after a period of time, Morris Knapp and my grandfather, Orrin Southwick, bought out the other 3 and then carried on. And then the telephone company just evolved from there. And of course, the history is that, you know, lines were strung up with cross arms and all sorts of insulators and side arms on the poles, and I used to work on it when I was a teenager.
Did you really?
Sure. Climbing poles and setting lines and setting poles, and then my father came along. Of course, he was part of it from way back, and then he eventually took over. He and Morris Knapp's son, Ken Knapp, they became partners back in the late 40s. And then carried on from there. And then Brother Dave came after my father got killed in 1959, and he took over. And then from there on, then Trent Trahan, whose grandfather, let me get it straight. His aunt, his mother's sister, Edith Knapp, was married to Ken Knapp. So that's where the history developed into Trent being part of the telephone company. He's president CEO now. But it's been quite a transition over the years.
A lot of local people involved in this
A lot of
organization.
local people. Oh my goodness, all through the years. The Moores, the Kennedys, and John Guerin, and I can remember working with them. As I said, climbing poles. I remember one time climbing a pole. It was an old chestnut pole. Those old chestnut poles.
This whole
were
thing
set.
is an old chestnut, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Those old chestnut poles were set in the early 1900s when the phone company first started. 1948 or 49. I was climbing one of them up in Cannon's Corners, cutting the wires to transfer to another pole. And when I went to cut the last wire, the base of the pole had rotted out, and the pole went like this. And I went like this to the pole. The worst thing you're supposed to do, because when you climb with hooks.
Sure.
And you stay back. So I did this.
You hugged it.
And fortunately, Jim Troll, and he loves to tell this story, he had to rescue me with a ladder.
Before it went down.
Before it went down.
You didn't go down with a ship, huh?
No. But it's been quite a history, and it's mostly all family. But it's bigger now, and it's more diverse. It's not just sending or setting poles and putting phones in houses. It's all sorts of communications.
You know, we've talked about it before. If it didn't become diverse, it probably couldn't survive.
That's
so
right.
Diversity is the name of the game now, isn't it?
Right. That's right.
Yeah, well, they've gone into so many different fields and so many new technologies that are about 24 feet above my head.
Mine too.
But
Mine too.
it's amazing to watch it happen.
Yes.
You mentioned the word evolves or evolution in the beginning. And isn't it fun to take a purely North Country company like this with very tiny beginnings and watch it grow into what it is today?
Yeah, it's amazing.
What a respected organization in this business, not just here, but all over the place. All over the country, actually, people know about the Champlain Telephone Company. I love it.
And to stay relatively independent in this day and age is something
hard,
else.
too.
So,
A lot of resistance. Well, it's got to be a kick for you just to be here today.
oh, it is. It is. In fact, I made sure that nothing else was going on. Old cars or whatever. Office work or old cars, I'm here.
Well, you know, you and I could do maybe about 5 separate 2-hour television shows on our multifarious interests.
Yes.
You've lived that dream with the old cars, and that's just such a beautiful thing to do, isn't it? To play
Oh
with
my
old
goodness,
cars.
yes. I can't broadcast too much because my wife gets upset about it.
I heard about it. How would you like to be Tony Vaccaro with his burgeoning collection of memorabilia from the
my
old
goodness,
Lozier
yes.
days?
Yes.
His wife, he tells her what he's going to pay for a steering wheel, and she just says, "Oh my God."
See, I don't tell mine.
John, thanks so much for being here, for
John,
being a good friend of the North Country for so many years.
It's a pleasure. See you guys.
I'll be on TV, baby.
Now let me see. Gabby is short for Gabby or Gabrielle.
Gabrielle.
See that? How are you, Gabby?
Good, how are you?
I forgot your last name.
Giroux.
I'm pleased to meet you. Now you're related to this organization. Tell me how.
I'm an IT analyst for the company. I've been working here for 3.5 years. This is my daughter, Cosette.
She's just a sweetie, and she's not really that shy.
No, she's not.
She wanted to. I think she wanted to take a bite out of that microphone. Can you say hi, everybody? Maybe not. She's 3.
2.5.
2.5. She's a sweetie. So how did you happen to get the job here in the first place, Gabby?
I dropped my resume off and I got a call.
That's important.
Yeah. I was interviewed by Sean McGinty and a couple of other people from CTC. And you want to take that, please? I've been working here for 3.5 years, almost. It'll be 4 in January.
Who are you related to? Are you related to the South? Oh, related to you?
I'm related to you? I didn't know that.
Really?
She forgot. My mother and her grandmother were our cousins.
Yes, but see that? No wonder. Now we know
My
why.
grandmother? She's right there.
See that?
My mother's cousin.
Now you know everything.
Now I know everything.
Stick it right here. Can you stick it on my cheek? No, you'd rather not. So actually, what is your day like? What do you do here?
Oh, it's
I don't
crazy.
mean today. I mean on a normal day.
On a normal day, taking calls and fixing people's computer problems on a regular basis.
And never a dull moment.
Never a dull moment.
Nobody ever raises their voice and hollers.
No. And they're always good questions.
Do you have other kids, Gabby?
Nope, this is it.
She's a sweetie. She's obviously well taken care of. You're a very pretty girl. Thanks a lot,
Do you
Gabby.
want to go see Meme?
Have a great day.
Okay.
See you later. We also learned as she was walking away that she's the chairperson of the whole event.
Yes.
That's why she ran out to greet us at the door. Have you got a committee that you've worked with, Gabby?
Yep, I have Carrie Gooley, John Wells, Lori Porter, Tom Pressagiacomo, John Wetham. Who am I forgetting? I'm forgetting somebody.
They'll
Pookie.
tell you.
We call him Pookie.
Oh. If you forgot
I know.
anybody, they'll let you know the moment this
I
program
hope I'm not
gets
forgetting
up.
anybody else.
You've worked there 3 years. Have you ever been involved with an open house before?
I was last year. I helped Craig Hicks. He was chairperson last year, so I helped him.
It's not a small task,
No, it's not. It's
especially when you're celebrating a centennial.
right. We actually started last September, the week after last year's open house, started to plan for this.
Did you really?
Yeah, to try and get everything organized. And because of the weather today, we really don't know what it's going to be. Wednesday became a difficult issue on what are we going to do if we do have a hurricane situation.
Well, I don't think we're going to have a hurricane
No, it's
situation.
actually very nice out.
It's really quite a nice day in the low 70s. A little bit of breeze and maybe a little bit more this afternoon, maybe a few drops of rain.
Yep.
Not a big deal. So you got your order in early.
Yeah, we actually have a whole 100-year celebration going on. We started with a employee luncheon in February. We had a technology fair in May at the schools, and then the open house. And tomorrow night we actually have a black tie affair.
Oh, really?
Yes. So.
You got your dress all picked
Oh
out?
yes, I do.
Oh. I
this
bet
year-
the tattoo won't show, though.
No,
right?
that's why I decided to put the tattoo on the back instead of somewhere that it would show.
Where's that going to be?
It's at the golf course tomorrow night.
So it's a real, I mean, you can't have just a one-day celebration when you've been
No.
around for 100 years.
I know, it's been a long 100 years, so I hear.
I bet our viewers are very much aware that this centennial for the Champlain Telephone Company is being shared with the 100th anniversary of Flight, the Wright brothers.
Right?
took off
I actually have that.
from Kitty Hawk in 1903.
Henry Ford.
And Henry Ford.
Yep, and the Boston Red Sox won the first World Series ever, beating the Pittsburgh Pirates.
See, that has no interest for me at all, but we have a lot of Boston fans in this area, and that certainly might be. We also know that hurricane you alluded to called Isabel,
Yes.
she was a fright, and she did a number on Kitty Hawk
Yes, she did. I saw it
last
on
night and
I
this
saw it on
morning,
the
in
news
case
this
you
morning.
didn't know. So
Yeah.
if the Wright brothers were alive today, they'd say, no, I think we better stay home and watch TV, because it was pretty nasty down there. So other things, anything else planned for this centennial?
Nope, actually tomorrow night is our last event that we have planned. But today here we have some of our local vendors, or some of our vendors from the company. We have Cardin, Gray Bar. We also have, this year, all the money that we raise, we usually give to a local charity or organization. This year, all the monies we raise are being donated to the local libraries. Champlain.
That's why we had the library.
Champlain, Ross's Point Moors,
Isn't that
and
terrific?
Altona.
You're to be commended for that. That's a real big
Right.
deal for me, and I think that's absolutely wonderful.
We did the fire departments last year with the 100 year of September 11th, but this year we decided to go with the libraries. Figuring that communication and reading are probably two of the most important ways of communicating these days.
Well, knowing all the different things I've been connected with down through the years, communication has been one of the most important
Right.
words in my vocabulary.
And it's funny because in my speech I'll be saying later,
Oh, you've got a speech,
just
too?
a small little one,
Okay, we'll be around for 1 o'clock for that.
is the fact that in 1903, I mean, now a lot of people didn't know how to read. And a lot of people didn't have telephones. And now 100 years later, the growth of both. I mean, everybody has a phone. I mean, seldom, and you can't really get by without being able to read. So, two very important things 100 years later. So it was nice to incorporate the libraries, and help promote reading and, just being part of the local library system. We also have the New York State Police here today doing fingerprint cards, ID cards, to help promote the Amber Alert that New York State took effect, which is nice.
People are demanding more and more of their telephone companies. When we talked to John a little while ago, we mentioned the word diversity. Even small businesses like this have to diversify. People are expecting more of their phones and their phone company, and one of the big features of Isabel when she hit the coast around Virginia, North Carolina, were the fact that people couldn't talk on their cell phones because cell phone towers were going splat.
And that was the same for September 11th. We realized how much, something in that situation, a natural disaster or
we're spoiled,
other,
aren't we?
when the poles are down, and what are you supposed to do?
Yeah, you got that right. I noticed. First of all, thanks to the Press Republican for running a nice little piece about your open house today. And a little background, something they mentioned in their article was that there's another celebration of communications, a national celebration coming up?
Yeah, this is Independent Small Telephone Companies Week. The whole week is dedicated to small telephone companies throughout, and we just happen to be one of those. Like in 1903, there was like 555 customers. Today, CTC almost has 6,000 customers, which is nice.
Isn't that great?
I know.
There were and still are a lot of small independent telephone companies.
I know, as
country.
a young person growing up in Ross's Point, I wouldn't have been able to survive in my teenage years without a telephone.
Ask any kid now as they walk down the halls of their school, and they talk on their telephones, and now there's
cell phones and pagers.
Cell phones, pagers, walkie-talkies, you name it. They have to be in communication.
Oh, yes.
Sometimes I just like to say, shut it all off, put it all away.
And you feel obligated to answer it when it rings.
And you do. Isn't that funny? That's the way we are with email. You feel obligated to answer every email. So you've got a little ceremony. We're recording this at 11:30 in the morning. You've got a
at 1 o'clock.
Ceremony at 1 o'clock. I want you to get all the proper butterflies going. Because there will be thousands of people here. What? You obviously invited every school kid from here to Albany. There are lots.
No, there's just 2 schools.
Holy mackerel.
You ate it all up. Good girl.
That's my favorite line. I ate it all up.
Usually she never eats. So
well,
it's nice.
you got the school kids here.
Yes, we had them here last year. It was a good idea to get the schools involved, and they helped us out. We did a technology fair with them in May. It's nice to have them come. It's kind of, even though they've only been in school for 2 weeks, a little break. They're 4th and 5th grade. We try and give them the history of, the telephone company and show them what's new in products. Outside we have a pole demonstration. They get to see what a local company does, and they get to, have good food and listen to music and get balloons and clowns.
I think we did, didn't we? A cookie. Can I have a bite? Makes perfect sense to me. I couldn't take a bite anyway on this crazy diet. We went to that technology fair in May and had a great time at the school, interviewing lots of people, looking at old telephones and talking with the technicians.
We actually didn't bring our old telephone display over because at the main office we have a kind of a museum, a telephone museum. If you guys get an opportunity to go over there, it has all the old phones and pictures and some pretty neat stuff over there that's been collected throughout the years.
I think we have most of that on tape somewhere, don't we? At one time or another, we've been over there.
The phones have been around for quite a while. We keep bringing them out and stuff. There just wasn't enough room with, Isabel being a threat to bring it out. We also have Mr. Lamberton here with his car today. And we have the Neverets making great food for us. They always do.
Probably not one thing I can eat over there on this diet that I'm on.
What are you on?
Atkins.
Oh, yeah, there's sausage over there, and there's hamburgers and hot dogs.
Okay. Gabby, thanks so much for all of your hard work. You've done a magnificent job so far.
It's fun. I'm kind of glad the day's here.
We'll try to cheer for your before, during, and after your speech. We'll try to
Thank you.
disrupt the audience as much as possible. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
See you later.
You know, I mentioned the word communications a while ago as being one of the most important words in my lifetime based on my careers in communications, but one of my second favorite words is libraries. Because
Books and reading.
my connections with books go back to long before I could hold a microphone in my hand. And I was one of those fortunate people whose mother read to him when he was only 1 or 2 days old, and until I could repeat the words and read back to her, and soon I was reading to my mother. And even in her old age, when her vision failed, I was reading books to her. And my propensity for reading books is almost legendary, because each time we go on vacation, I have a small suitcase over here and a large bag of books over here. And my bag of books is very often larger than my suitcase, so you know how I'm connected with books. We already talked with Gabby, and she already told us that you people in the libraries here in the Northern Tier are going to be the recipients of this whole shindig, and that's pretty neat. Who are you?
My name is Allison Mandeville, and I'm the librarian director at Champlain Memorial Library.
It's wonderful that libraries are still thriving. There is a lot of competition these days, and we don't have to enumerate what they all are. But in my office, and we're only right around the corner from the library on Oak Street in Plattsburgh, we talk about libraries and library books all the time. It's so important, isn't it?
It's very important.
And I never miss an opportunity to go to school and talk to kids about the value of reading. When this Champlain Telephone Company started in 1903, the incidence of functional literacy, illiteracy here in Clinton County was higher than any of us would like to imagine. And I don't mind telling you that the incidence of functional illiteracy in the year 2003 in Clinton County is higher than we would like to imagine. And I know a lot of adults who cannot help their children with their homework, cannot sign their own names, or if they can, they couldn't write a check. And that's why I promote an extended organization called Literacy Volunteers, and anybody else who is willing to mentor a person who wants to learn English as a second language or to learn how to read.
And many of the little local libraries house the Literacy Volunteers program right there
I know
and
they
have
do.
people come
And
and
it's
do
just
it.
amazing. I just want to go down the line and meet everybody. First of all, I'd like to know how you became involved in the library business.
Well, as a lover of books, I've worked in libraries all during high school and my college years. And when I saw that Champlain was looking for a new director, I jumped on it.
I can't imagine a more pleasurable experience than working in a library and watching the libraries evolve and trying to survive on very limited funds sometimes.
It's the best job in the world.
People know that Kay and I camp up on the St. Lawrence River, and about halfway through our camping experience, we run out of the books we brought to read, so we run up to the little library in Waddington, and they're almost always having a book sale. And you buy a little bag with their logo on it for $2 and stuff as many books into it. We are happy campers giggling all the way back to our campsites. Thank you for being here. And who are you?
I'm Helen Russell from the Altona Reading Room. My interest in library work started in school. From 9th grade on through high school to 12th grade, I worked as a library page.
Did you really? In school?
In school. That's where I learned most of my library skills.
Unfortunately, many of the schools I attended as a youngster were very small 1- and 2-room schoolhouses here in northern New York, where they didn't even have libraries per se. So you had to go to a public library or beg your parents for a quarter so you could go and buy a new book. But I have to tell you, the old-time teachers were certainly an inspiration in inspiring us to learn how to read. And I can remember in 4th grade and 5th grade, and I've talked to some of my old classmates about it, each child having a little folder, a packet tacked up on the wall with his or her name. And when you read a book, you wrote a little report about it and stuffed it in there. And at the end of the week, the person who had read the most books and who wrote the most, resumes, reports on book reports, got a little recognition in front of the class, and it inspired everybody to read more and more and more books. So the teachers ought to be congratulated for that. So you've been working in the library system for a while.
I've been in Altona, 6 years. I've helped the library grow. We have the reading books now on tape. We get the videos, and we get the circulation of the children's books and the adult books from the library in Plattsburgh.
Many of the libraries I know are now multimedia centers, not just the printed word, but DVDs and CDs and VHS tapes and old-time records. But I mean, it's you walk into some of the bigger city libraries and wow, that's
Still king, though.
I talk about that a lot. Can I move over between you ladies over here just so I can get closer? I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
Because another one of my favorite words is imagination. And every time you add a dimension to the medium, you take away just a little tiny bit of the imagination.
Yeah, you do.
And I have to tell you, for most people who listen to me on the radio for 36 years, they thought I was a little skinny guy, and boy, were they disappointed when I started working with...
Hey, you're getting skinnier and skinnier, though.
You're so kind to say that. I'm trying to hold it in. Who are you?
I'm Mary Ann Tremblay, and I'm the library director in Rouse's Point, and I've been there for 40 years.
40 years.
You didn't have to say that, but I'm glad you did.
Well, I think, loving books for that long is pretty good, and I have an excellent village board, and they help our library immensely, and I'd like them to have a lot of credit for what has happened in our library.
It's hard work. It's not just putting new books on the stacks and taking the old ones out, is it?
But we need the money they give us, too, and that's wonderful.
I don't think many of the people in our audience have any clue how libraries survive. Where do they get their money from? So let's talk about that for a moment.
Ours comes from the village of Rouse's Point, and then we get some from the school, the town, and Wyeth gives us some. And we're quite well funded, and we're very happy about it because a lot of small libraries are having problems these days. So we're very happy with it.
Reading books is great exercise for the mind.
I don't remember ever not reading books.
I'm one of those strange people. This is one of the rare moments in my life when you won't see me carrying something to read.
Well, my mom and dad used to find...
There's a long way to the outhouse behind our house when I was a kid.
Well, my parents used to find me sitting on the stairs after sleepwalking, and I always had a book in my hand. That was awful. They'd wake me up.
I have to tell you, you just topped anything I could ever...
That's good.
That's wonderful.
That is a great story.
But there were and are books in my house everywhere, and I'm embarrassed to say that this is one of the few houses I've ever lived in where I don't have a place where I can call the library. There are books in every room. There are books in boxes that belong to my father and his father and his father.
I'm the same way. The only rooms that don't have books are the bathrooms.
Really?
Yep.
And for many people, that's the only room that does.
I know, that's not our library, but the whole house is filled with books.
I have many kids. Well, Calvin knows my connection with the Reader's Digest because my father worked there. We lived near Pleasantville when I was a little boy.
Oh, great.
Thanks to Calvin, I still have a subscription to the Reader's Digest. I was valedictorian in my high school class, which was not a very big achievement in those days. And my only prize for being valedictorian was not a scholarship to some great Division I school, but a one-year subscription to the Reader's Digest. And I've been getting the Reader's Digest in my home ever since.
We had it in school when I was growing up too. I went to St. John's Academy in Plattsburgh.
Did you really?
And the Reader's Digest was part of some of our studies, reading it.
It's been a wonderful, huge part of American culture when you think about it.
It is.
Great. All right. Moving on. Who are you?
I'm Ann Hobson, and I'm a board member at Moore's Library. Our librarian is ill today, Edie Morlock, who is a great librarian brought a lot of life to our little library. And we have very limited funds, but we do a terrific job, and we're getting more and more people interested in reading. It's amazing, as you say, more people are reading. Sometimes the computers will bring them into the library, and then they start reading books.
You know, I don't mind telling you, Ann, and some of you are almost as old as I am in this circle.
Oh, yeah.
I, for one, am almost delighted that ebooks did not catch on, because I don't even like to read email messages on my computer screen. I have to see the printed page.
Right, and smell it and feel it and touch it.
We've talked a lot about manuscripts and paper and books down through the centuries, and what a great service Mr. Gutenberg did by
Absolutely.
inventing his printing press. You've had very insightful comments. Even when I was way over there, I could hear you over there adding your 2 cents, and that's a good thing.
I worked for the Clinton Essex Franklin Library right around the corner from where you are for 15 years. So I love small rural libraries. Make such a difference in the life, as you say, of rural areas that just bring the world to the towns.
I know I forever find myself promoting things that were familiar to me growing up that the younger generation doesn't have a clue about. And libraries are among those things. And the Clinton Essex Franklin Library and our good friend, the Connecticut peddler, Stanley Ransom.
Right. I worked with Stan for many years.
And I was always begging Stan to find me a certain new book that I couldn't find. And Stan was always running off on some wild goose chase or calling somebody on the phone and said, Gordy's got to have this book. We've got to get this book.
Bet he got it for you.
And he always got it. And I don't want to monopolize the conversation, but when my father died, he left me a newspaper that dates to about 1797. And it shows the stagecoach routes from New York City to Albany and how it took 4 days and where you could catch the stage. But it had one little line, one of the columns this big, talking about how people in the general public could go to a certain place in New York City and view a learned pig.
A learned pig?
A learned pig. This pig knew how to count and do all kinds of things and make strange noises. And for 50 cents, you could bring your family and see the learned pig. And in the 1990s, when Stanley was still at the library, I heard that a gentleman wrote a book called The Learned Pig and Other Strange Animals or whatever. And Stanley got me the book, and I turned to the right page, and there was an exact replica of that newspaper item that I had.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
From 200 years ago.
Oh, my God.
I was so excited, I made a copy and wrote a long letter to the author, and he never responded, so I was crushed.
Oh.
But thanks for your contribution
You're
to
welcome.
the library business. Who are you?
I'm Ellen Montgomery from the Altona Reading Room. Got
two representatives from the Altona Reading Room.
Well, we don't have a library, but we started our reading room about 11 years ago. Before that, we only had access to library system through the bookmobile, which I used all the time when my kids were little.
Oh my goodness.
But we had a supervisor who was very forward-thinking and wanted to have, well, we call it the library, but it's the reading room. Everybody in town calls it the library, but we're small, but we service quite a few people. And we have all the amenities. We have anything that we don't have, we can get from the other libraries or from the Clinton Essex.
It's nice to have that network and have computers where you can find out where the books and periodicals are these days.
We do have a computer and we're online. We have Roadrunner, internet connection, as most of the libraries do around here. So.
You mentioned the bookmobile. Wow. Kay and I raised 15 kids. And when the bookmobile was in town, they knew it.
Yes.
And we're constantly scrounging to find all the books that we borrowed last week. And sometimes after 30 years or 40 years, we'll renovate a room and find a book that should have been returned in 1969.
Oh, yes. You got an overdue bill.
Well, we have spent a lot of time with the bookmobile and with the library systems here in Clinton County. I want to thank you all so much for being here today, and I want to thank the Champlain Telephone Company for for recognizing a library.
Absolutely. A lot of people forget us, but they have really remembered us in a big way, and we're very grateful for that.
I had great pleasure last year or the year before to talk to retired teachers from this Northeast region in one of their big annual celebrations at the Elks Club in Plattsburgh, and we spent the whole time talking about how books have influenced our lives and what early school books, what Dick and Jane books can we remember from way back when.
Spot Run.
And See Spot Run. I love it. Ladies, thank you so much for being here and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Gordy.
Good luck. Well, we've walked to another corner of the building and another member of the Southwick clan is with us. Joe, how are you?
Great, Gordy. It's great to see you.
Often when we meet, we talk about that phone installation you did at the radio station way back when. I don't even remember what that year was, but you must have been about 7.
Yeah, I think so. 7 or 8, something like that. I don't remember what year it was either, but
no
it
idea.
was
a lot of water over the dam.
Yeah, it was quite an adventure. I had a good time, and it was a lot of fun. I got to meet all the great people at the radio station. I still keep in contact with them. It was a lot of fun.
This is kind of fun to have this kind of a celebration.
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
Most of us are only around for one centennial, you know.
Oh, okay.
Hard to make 2 of them.
Yeah. Well, I can proudly say that I've been part of this for almost a quarter of it. So anyway,
Have you really?
Yeah, I've been here for 24 years.
How did the connection start for you? Of course, everybody in your family talked telephone when you were a little tiny boy.
Right. Well, the Champlain Telephone Company has always had a policy of hiring college students during the summer and on breaks and whatnot to fill temporary spots. So when I went away to school, the first break that I had, my dad said, "Come on up and work for us during the break." So I did, and I came up, and I really enjoyed it. And to tell you the honest truth, I really enjoyed having that paycheck in my pocket. And when that semester got done, I came back up here and went to work for them in the summertime and decided that this is what I wanted to do. So
they reeled you right in, didn't they?
Well,
and you went willingly, I think, for the most part.
To be perfectly honest with you, I think it was my father's expectation that I would go back and finish my degree, but I sat down with him and said, "I think this is what I'd rather do," and he said, "Okay, if that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do," and they haven't been able to get rid of me since.
You know, there are a lot worse ways to make a living too.
Well, and I realized that right off. That there's a lot of people out there that are not as fortunate as I am to have the job that I have. I mean, I love it. I go to work every day. It's something new every day, and I've enjoyed every day of it.
What exactly is your job with the company, Joe?
Right now, actually, I've been with PrimeLink for pretty much since its inception in 1997. In December of '97 is when I started working for PrimeLink full time. And I've had a number of different positions with PrimeLink, but currently I'm working in the operations department, and I'm in charge of coordinating all of the efforts that the operations department takes on in Plattsburgh, mainly with customer premise equipment, where we sell and install and maintain telephone systems such as the one we put in at wiring. And then anything else that has to do with that, and also coordinating any of the big projects that we have going on, where we go into the customer's location and switch all their phone lines over to PrimeLink. Most of that stuff has to do with their internal phone system as well, so it helps to have my expertise in there to help them with that.
Let's, we're imagining that many of our listeners already know what PrimeLink is all about, but let's talk about the connection for those who don't between PrimeLink and Champlain Telephone Company.
Well, PrimeLink is a subsidiary of the Champlain Telephone Company, and that's really its only connection. PrimeLink is a separately run business. We do share some resources. We share the information technology resources and the finance resources with Champlain Telephone Company, but we have our own management team. We have our own offices. We are located exclusively in Plattsburgh, and that's where we operate out of. We do we have our own switch down there. We are our own phone company in Plattsburgh.
Quite a few people work for PrimeLink.
PrimeLink has about 25 employees right now. I'm not sure the exact number, but somewhere in that neighborhood.
You know, it's not fair. We're standing here doing this interview, and I can smell food.
I know.
Much.
I got to sneak over and have a few little bites on when I was on break here a minute ago. But
we might have to do some sneaking before we're through.
I think so.
What? Any big plans for the near future for Prime Link? I know we're celebrating 100 years for the Champlain Telephone Company here today. Any great plans coming up in the next few years that we can spring on the public here today?
Our biggest and most impressive and exciting initiative that PrimeLink is doing is our fiber build in Plattsburgh, where we're actually bringing fiber optic cable right to all the businesses that are our customers in Plattsburgh, which is really unprecedented for small telephone companies anywhere in the country, as a matter of fact. I mean, you'd be very hard pressed to find more than a handful of companies in the whole United States that actually are building their entire backbone out of fiber, and that's what we're doing in Plattsburgh.
And I'm plenty old enough, and so is Calvin, to remember when fiber optics was a very, very brand new phrase.
Right, exactly. Right now, it is the media of choice. It just enables us to bring so much more to the customer than conventional copper. And once it's built, once it's there, I don't think that the technology will ever catch up to the transport mechanisms that we have in place. Once the fiber is in place between our switch and a customer's location, we can give them anything that they want, anything that's available now and anything that's available in the foreseeable future. It's pretty exciting, it really is.
That's great. Joe, thanks so much for your contribution to this great organization.
Well, like I said, I appreciate it. Every day I wake up and I say, great, I get to go and find out something new. So
that's the way I look at every day too. Thanks again, Joe.
Good, I appreciate it. Thank you, Calvin.
We were just talking about Paradigm over there, and then we meet Matt Obuck, right?
That's it, Matt Obuck.
Oh, where are you from, Matt?
I live in Guilford, Connecticut.
You heard about the open house and you had to be here.
Had to be here, yep.
What is Paradigm?
Paradigm is a broadband access, telecommunications network equipment manufacturer out of Tampa, Florida. We actually originally invented the first code for modems back in 1969. And
wow, they've had them since then?
Yeah, probably since 200-ish bits per second.
Wow.
Now we're up to, millions of bits per second.
We were just looking at one of the little pieces of equipment, and it's truly amazing. Is that little box the only thing a person has in their house when they're connected?
That's all they have to have is a tiny little modem that's smaller than the modem that used to give you like 9.6 analog about 5-6 years ago. Now that same box gives you 50 plus times that speed minimum, 100 times that speed.
This is called internet access. Mm-hmm. Some of us still do it on the old undedicated telephone lines. Mm-hmm. Some people do it through their local cable system. Some people do it with this kind of, what do they call it, DSL?
This is DSL, digital subscriber line, yep.
And what advantages are there to DSL? It's just, first of all, you don't tie up a phone line, and it's tremendously fast.
You get to leverage your existing infrastructure as a telephone company, so you can leverage the existing copper that you have going into a home or a residence or a business. That's one of the major advantages of DSL. And secondary, it's an always-on product, dedicated port product back to the telephone company, and then you get your uplink to the internet from there. So you get your high-speed access over the same copper pair that you get your telephone line, and you get to surf the internet at high speeds. Yeah, it's a great story, great technology story.
How did you get hooked up with this company? Give us a little bit of your background.
My background is in high tech mainly for the last 13 years. So I've been with AT&T, Lucent, that whole split, and AT&T actually owned Paradigm for a short while.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, AT&T bought Paradigm back in 1989, and then it spun off. Paradigm itself spun off of AT&T back in 1996. With the Lucent spin-off and the NCR spin-off, and I ended up going with Paradigm. So I've been hanging around Paradigm for quite a long time. I love the company. It's a great little company out of actually Largo, Florida. We're based out of since 1969. Same manufacturing facility, probably one of the cleanest manufacturing facilities you'll ever enter in your life. You can literally eat off the floor in there. And we have a huge capacity. We can manufacture in niche runs to 1,000 unit runs and switch a line in 20 minutes. We have 3 full lines. Not many people have heard of the company Paradigm, but we were consider a Paradigm the Cisco of the 1970s. We just didn't do the right stuff in the 80s to make us the Cisco of today.
How big a territory do you cover?
Oh, I cover geographically. I guess many people out in the Midwest wouldn't consider it that big, but from Philadelphia all the way up to Buffalo to the tip of Maine, including all of New York City and Long Island.
It's nice to be here right now where Hurricane Isabel is not, isn't it?
I agree with you. Yeah, I'm happy that I am. I love to come upstate anyway when I can get up here, and I love to do functions like this when I can, because there's so much more low-key and real grassroots type stuff instead of the trade shows like I'm gonna have to do next week in Boston.
Oh, really? We won't show this tape in Boston then, okay?
Yeah.
Hey, Matt, thanks so much for talking with us.
Thank
Have
you.
a great day and a good life.
Appreciate it. Yeah, you too.
See you later. Well, I think I lied. We're getting a little breeze outside. Not enough to be worried about, but it's really quite a nice day at about 12 minutes after 12. We're at the Champlain Telephone Company Service Center on the Ridge Road in Champlain, not very far out of town, celebrating the centennial of this Northern Tier company. Randy Bosley, how are you, buddy?
Well, pretty good today.
Mark took off for a few minutes.
Yeah, he's just gone run some errands, and he should be back.
Mark Lamberton is the famous driver of number 29s, sponsored by Prime Link, and we noticed just a little crinkle in the back fender, Randy.
Yeah, that happened last Sunday's Fall Foliage 200. We had a little mishap, but nothing too bad. Try to straighten out as much as possible, but we got a race next weekend to run at Thunder Road, and they get pretty rough over there, so we're not too concerned about straightening it out.
It can get pretty rough anywhere these days. You work on the crew as the crew chief for this?
I'm the spotter and the body man. I do all the sheet metal fabrication, all the decals.
No wonder he crunched when he did this funny little bit when we saw that crunch in the fender.
Yeah, so I don't know if it was my spotting, but if it was the fault of my spotting, I had to fix it anyway, so everything works out in the end.
It's pretty hard to go through any racing season anywhere without touching somebody or something.
That's true. Actually, this is pretty good. We just put a new body on the car 2 weeks ago. We came back from Oxford, Maine, and pretty much most of the body was off the car when we got back. So it's looking, that one little dent right there is that's pretty mild.
For those people who have never been to a stock car race, tell me a little bit about this car.
The car is the body's an aftermarket 5-star body. The car is a replica of a 2003 Pontiac Grand Prix. It's got a Chevy spec engine mandated by ACT. Strictly racing. There's actually, they call it stock car racing, but there's really nothing stock in this car whatsoever.
Oh no! And then when you say replica, it is a replica. There's very little that is identical to anything that comes off the assembly line.
Correct. I think the only real stock component is the engine block and the transmission. I believe those are the only 2 pieces that are actually stock on the whole car.
Do you get to drive it all?
That he won't let me do, and I don't know if that's not quite fair, but
I don't think it's quite fair either.
I guess when I start footing the bill, maybe he'll let me drive it.
How many people get to work on a car like this?
Oh, I think in and out of the garage during the week, it would probably have maybe 4 or 5 guys that will actually work on a car, and we have more of a reinforcement crew that shows up at the track each week, and up to probably 10 guys that actually help us out.
How often does Mark race anyway during the racing season?
I think this year our total combined would have been right around somewhere around 18 or 20 races. We ended up wrecking up, and we were out of the tour for probably about 3 weeks. We're putting the car back together and regathering everything to go back at them for the last few races. So we race up and down the New England coast, so it ends up being quite a haul and quite a strain on the crew too. So we took a little break in the middle of the summer and gave everybody a little refresher.
People have no idea how much midnight oil you got to burn to get a car ready, because when you have that many races, especially when races are close one to the other, You got to work a lot of late nights, don't you?
Exactly, and the biggest thing with this division is almost all the guys that we race with, except a few of them, all have other jobs, and the crews that work on the cars all have other jobs too. So when they're working on the cars, they're doing it after hours, when they've already went and worked 8-9 hours at their regular job, and then they're coming back into the garage and working another 4 or 5 hours at night. So it ends up taking a toll on everybody before the year's over.
It takes a passion and a dedication to want to race, because very few of these small town racers get rich.
That's
doing
true.
what they're doing. They do it because they love to do it.
And you actually end up getting poorer.
I know that happens. I know a lot of marriages that have suffered from these from racing over the years. It's very hard, but it's an awful lot of fun.
Yeah, it is.
There's a lot of satisfaction to make that victory lap with that checker out the window.
That's for sure. And since we've had PrimeLink on the car for probably about 3.5, 4 years, we've had a lot of good luck. 2 years ago, we actually won the Airborne Track Championship, which we were the first New York team to do that. And so we've come a long way with having PrimeLink. And of course, years before that, running in the Tiger division and stuff, we had CTC, which is Champlain Telephone Company, and before that we had K&S Communications. So these guys have always been pretty much the backbone of our team anyway, and we're glad to be having PrimeLink on the car, sporting them around. And hopefully we got one more race next weekend at Barry's Thunder Road. We're hoping we can do something over there.
I haven't been at Thunder Road in a long, long time. We've had a lot of fun doing a couple of shows on the history of stock car racing here in the North Country, and we got one more up our sleeve, right? With Bob Bruno and friends before he goes back to Florida. We hope to get some old footage and some old people to sit around and talk about what stock car racing was like in the 50s and 60s. But it's been a good sport for a lot of people who've grown up with it here in the North Country.
It's definitely, and not only the sport in itself, but just the guys that work on the cars. It's the talent that's in this area. It's unbelievable. And myself, I do a lot of the sheet metal fabrication and stuff, and I learned my trade pretty much at Mark's expense. But there is a lot of talent, especially in this Clinton County area. I mean, between guys like Jamie Rabideau and Jamie Begore and Chris K.A. and Mark, and I could go on and name a dozen more, Norman Gay, but hopefully they'll keep the tradition going.
I hope they do. Randy, thanks so much. We didn't mean to put you on the spot, but it's been an awful lot of fun.
That's okay. Thank you.
Have a great day.
You will.
Steve Southwick says it's not like father, like son. We started our program with Dr. John Southwick here at the 100th anniversary for the Champlain Telephone Company. And I don't know if you hear a roaring sound across this microphone. The wind is picking up a little bit. Like I said, it's not alarming a bit. It's just quite a beautiful afternoon, but everybody's been watching television and listening to the radio because in late September 2003, there was a hurricane named Isabel. I'm glad I wasn't in Virginia right around Richmond this morning, Steve.
We're very lucky, very lucky.
We're delighted to be here today. This is a real kick, and it's got to be for you as a member of the Southwick family to be connected with this day and this organization.
I'm very proud of that. I really am. I worked for the company. This is my 20th year with the company.
Come on.
And so I'm
North
celebrating.
Country's oldest teenager.
I'm celebrating a milestone along with our 100th anniversary that I've been here since 1983.
That's hard for me to believe.
Yeah.
Everybody's 100 years younger than I am, but I can't believe you're old enough to have worked here 20 years. How did you start with the company, and just tell me a little bit about your career here?
Interestingly, for me, is that I started back when I was a sophomore in high school. I was traveling down the golf course road between Champlain and Rouse's Point, and my Uncle Dave stopped me in the road and asked me what I was doing that summer. And I said, well, I hadn't really had much for plans. I worked on a farm the summer before, and he asked me if I wanted to come and work summers at the phone company. Well, I jumped right on that opportunity, and pretty much ever since I've been working off and on for the phone company since 1972.
I don't know if they latched onto you or you latched into that. That's the same story, almost word for word, that Joe just told us about 20 minutes ago.
Yep, Joe and I got started about the same time, and it's been a great career for me.
Has your role with the company changed a lot over the years, Steve?
Yeah, I've gone around the company in a few different directions. I worked as an installer repairman when I first started in '83, and then I ended up in the accounting department. I worked in the accounting department with Anna Troll and Lori Frenier for almost 10 years, and then there was an opportunity to get into the position I'm in now, which is called outside plant engineer, and I've been there ever since.
What does that job entail?
It's mainly planning, organizing, and working with the guys like Dale Cardin and our construction crew. A good example of it would be the new Paquette Industrial Park and its development. Currently we're putting pipe in the ground and getting ready to put cable in the ground. So my job entails trying to forecast or give us an idea of where we're headed with that road. You know, there's two brand new buildings on what I call the north side towards the Prospect Hill Road, and in planning and actually building for those two facilities, we also have to take into consideration other potential growth on that same road.
So it's a never-ending job, obviously.
It is, and we're lucky enough to have the type of community that's doing quite well. And there's a lot of residential growth, especially in our Moores territory. So I'm out in the field taking a look at what's available for customers to use for facilities that would provide them dial tone in some of the more rural areas of Moores Forks, along with what's going on in other areas also.
You can't help but see the CTC logo. Can you tell me, or don't you know who designed that logo? It's very simple, but it sure does catch your eye with a backward C at the end.
It does, and I think that over the years it's taken a little bit of ribbing, but also it's something that's really recognizable, and it's a lot of it has to do with the company's efforts to make sure that it's out there. And these are the kind of ways that we do that, by giving back to the community as best we can. I saw you interviewing the people from the different libraries. Last year was the fire departments, and I keep saying proud, but that I honestly am proud of our efforts to give back to the community. One of the things my Uncle Dave always said, and Trent continues that philosophy, is that yes, we do have somewhat of a corner on the market with respect to dial tone, but if you look at a majority of a lot of our employee base, you'll see that we're from the area and we give back to the area through businesses where we buy our vehicles, where we buy our gas, where we do business is where our customers do business too.
It's a nice fit. The Champlain Telephone Company and the northern tier of Clinton County fit together very nicely, and that's why Calvin and I have spent a lot of the time with this hometown cable program in promoting small businesses and individuals who realize that they're not an island, they can't live alone, that they have to give back to the community, and that's true of all of us, and that's why it's kind of fun for us to be here today. We've watched this company grow for a long time.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Golly gee, I didn't even have a cue card. Steve, thanks so much for being with us today. Have a great day, and best of luck with the next 100 years.
Thank you, and thank you, Calvin, for coming. Appreciate it.
Right. You better talk to him. Yeah, the wind has picked up just a little bit as we're standing outside of this facility on the Ridge Road in Champlain, celebrating the 100th anniversary of the Champlain Telephone Company. Well, we got kids, and everybody loves to watch big equipment going on here. And just recently, Calvin and I spent some time on Crab Island and watched those guys set a flagpole that weighs 6,000 pounds by hand after a helicopter kind of did a number on it when they tried to set it. And Calvin and I were not necessarily very good judges of distance, but I said, let me see, that pole is, and if it falls, no, let's move over here a little bit, guys. So how are you?
Good.
Dale
Cardin.
Cardin, glad to have you, and Rick Dubois.
Yep.
We saw you at the technical fair.
Yes, you did. Up at the Northeastern.
You just can't stay away, right? So what's going on here today, guys?
Well, the kids are coming around and we're giving them a demonstration over here of our cable plow.
Oh, they love anything with tracks on it. They love
Right,
it.
and how we bury cable and with the warning tape. And then we're bringing them over here and taking them through the fiber splicing trailer that we have here that we do our fiber splicing with.
We saw a little bit of that. Blew my mind away. That's really great.
And back over here, we're showing kids how a pole is set. We're just setting them and pulling them back out. We've already dug the hole because it takes too long to go through the whole process of dropping the auger and then having to go back through and doing the whole thing over again. And then
there's an art to it. It's
Yes.
not something you can just pick up walking down the street.
No, you have to. After a while, you get the hang of what the distance is for you to be able to hook it to bring it in the air, because you got to counterbalance the weight. And there's a lot of little tricks of the guy down on the ground telling the guy up on the truck.
You better be friends, right?
Yes, you got to work together. It's after you've done it a few years, you get to the point where you don't really, you know exactly what he's doing. Sign language, we don't even talk anymore. It's more or less just.
I worked on construction for many years and jobs where you couldn't hear normal conversation from this distance. So you better learn sign language, and you better learn when somebody screams headache, you better look up to see what's coming towards you.
Exactly.
So that's an interesting job, setting poles under normal conditions. And when you were talking, you know where my mind was? Some of the footage that Calvin took of the ice storm. And boy, you learn what setting poles is all about during it. Were you guys working then?
Yes. Oh yeah, we were out there every day, and it was a little difficult too, because that point in time the ground was froze, and then we got snow on top of it after that, and a lot of cable was buried, poles were buried, so it was a little bit more interesting.
It's nice to grow older and have stories for your children and grandchildren, but some of those stories you wish hadn't happened, right? What were you doing back during the ice storm?
Oh, we were doing the same thing.
Same thing?
Yeah, setting poles and running cable. Yeah, trying to get everybody back in service.
Somebody just looks at the street in front of their house as they're watching this program and sees how many telephone poles there are up and down the street. And, they calculate how often a pole gets knocked down or gets, rots or wears out. Actually, they last quite a long time, though, don't they? The way they're treated?
Now they do. Being treated, when they first started setting poles, I believe they were mostly all cedar poles. And
we were talking about that earlier. Of course, they started in 1903. Yeah. Chestnut, you mentioned chestnut and cedar, yeah.
But mostly, I believe that mostly all of them now are pine and treated, so softer, easier to climb if you need to climb them. They're not as hard. So, matter of fact, we got a guy over here that's giving a pole climbing demonstration today too. So.
You watch these lumberjack competitions and see how long it takes these guys to get up a pole and what kind of shape they must be in. These guys who climbed that flagpole said their legs were sore for days.
Oh yeah, it's entirely different. They say it's like climbing stairs, but it's a little different than climbing stairs.
I think it's a little different from climbing stairs.
Yeah.
So what do you guys each do now?
Well, I'm a line foreman now, so I don't climb poles as much as I used to. I leave that up to Rick and John Segrist are two linemen that do most of the pole climbing and stuff.
You have to you're getting pretty good shape doing that, don't you, Rick?
Yes, you do. It warms you up too, no matter how cold it is in the winter time. You climb a few poles, you warm right up.
I when I'm going down the road toward work and it's 35 degrees below zero and it's blowing snow and I see somebody up on the pole, I say, God bless you, and better you than me, baby, because I don't want to be out there in this kind of weather. But you got to do what you got to do, especially in a terrible event like the ice storm, right?
Yeah.
You guys, between you've both been with the company for.
I've been with the company for 27 years.
And you?
20.
Have you really?
Yeah.
Yep.
That's 47 years of experience standing right here.
Set a pole.
Can we do that? Take a look at it?
Sure.
All right, wonderful.
Oh, we've already got the whole dog.
Wait a minute. Okay, we're on. You already got the whole dog. That's
already
a good
got the
thing.
whole dog. This hole's only about 4 feet deep just for demonstration purposes, but normally this is a 35-foot pole. We'd like to go about 5.5 feet 5.5, 6 feet. The taller the pole, the deeper the hole. But, and I think he's just about ready. We're just gonna pick it up and grab it with the claws up at the top once we get it up there. Swing it over to the hole and drop it in.
Is that a metal cable, a fiberglass, or what is that cable?
That's nylon, I presume.
Is it nylon
it's
cable?
Poly.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a rope.
That's amazing.
Yeah. They use mostly ropes now. They used to use steel cables, regular steel winch lines, but now they go to the ropes for
You'll do your part.
Oh, he's waiting for me.
Okay. I bet those guys wish that flagpole had gone up as easy, right, Calvin? I wish they had this piece of equipment out there, but I'm not sure it could have handled 6,000 pounds.
They just said the hole's only 4 feet deep, which would normally be deeper. And somebody just told me a joke about these 2 crews being hired, and the guy didn't know which crew to hire, so he gave them each 10 poles to go set up. Said, you go set up those 10 poles and come back, and I'll decide which crew I'm going to hire. So the first crew got done, and they went out and checked on the second crew hours later, and they only buried 2. And they said, hey, you guys spent twice as much time. You only got 2 poles in. These other guys did the 10 in half your time. How do you explain that? He says, yeah, but look how much of theirs is sticking out of the ground.
I love it. I watched as they raised the pole. Of course, those big arms came and clamped around it to keep it stable on the top side. It's in there. It's absolutely level. It's straight up and down. I can tell.
We can do that for you.
That's beautiful.
Pull the dirt back in.
Do you? You don't cement the poles in, right?
No. We usually 90% of the time we use just whatever dirt came out of the hole. Sometimes if it's swampy or wet or whatever, we'll throw, rocks or a little stiffer fill in.
They stay pretty straight, don't
they? Yeah, they do. Once you pack everything back around them. Yeah.
Deep, yeah, he said, about 5 feet is best, huh?
Yeah. For a pole this size, about 5.5 at least.
Do you put bigger poles in than this sometimes?
Usually we've got 40s, 45s, and a couple of 50s that we've set.
No kidding.
So, 50-footer, you're going to want a good 7 feet in the ground.
I think you're absolutely right.
The deeper the better, because you might be the one climbing it after you get it set.
I can understand why you want to do it right. Guys, thanks a lot. Have a great day. We're celebrating 100 years for the Champlain Telephone Company here in the Northern Tier off the Ridge Road in Champlain. The last time we interviewed Celine, you're just coming back from a big trip. Remember that?
That's right.
Where was that? Antarctica?
Antarctica, yes.
Have you taken any big trips since then?
I think I went to Russia after that, but that's it, yes.
Yeah, went to Katie'ville. I went to Russia. Was that a good trip too?
Excellent trip.
Isn't it wonderful to be able to travel?
Yes.
Before that, all we had was National Geographic magazine. And I still subscribe to it. One of my brother and sister-in-laws give me that subscription every year. And I don't know how many different National Geographic magazines I've read.
Do you save them?
I used to. And I have to tell you, I have collections of everything. So I do have a collection of bound editions of National Geographic from the 1920s. They were doing some amazing things with photography back in those days. And nowadays, I give them to any of my kids who come in the house and take them away because I've only got 6 bedrooms. And after all, there's 2 people living in my house now. We don't have enough room for everything, so I don't save. A lot of people do that.
Yes.
So Celine, what's new? You're on the legislature for how many years now?
I'm completing my 8th year and running for re-election this fall. So for 4 more years, I'm signed up again.
We not to dwell on that aspect of it, but it is a great contribution that people make in a county this size when they decide to give back. We talked a lot today about giving back with this phone company, and some of us feel obligated to give back in different ways. Some people are talented and qualified and feel as though running for office is a way to give back. But so many people are afraid to take that first step. It's not easy, but I know you've resulted with an awful lot of satisfaction over the last 8 years, haven't you?
I've enjoyed it very, very much, but you're right. It takes an awful lot of time, and a lot of people either don't have the time or don't want to give up that much time. We have about, if we had every meeting every month that we're supposed to have, would be between, at least for me, 18 to 20 meetings a month. So that's a lot of meetings.
Come on, are you kidding?
That's right. Because we have 2 legislative meetings, and all the legislators are on a finance committee, and we each have 4 committees, and then we have extra committees, like I have airport and a tobacco health committee, which is above and beyond the regular standing committees, and then I attend my town board meetings and my 2 village board meetings.
Not to mention the public appearances like here today.
That's right, but I enjoy my constituents, so.
Well, you've been a native of this area for a long, long time, and we've talked about that in the past. But it makes us feel good to be here and see a company that's become part of the community for 100 years, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's great. The Champlain Telephone Company. I like the sounds of that. And my husband was very active on the board for a great number of years. So I'm very proud of this company.
That's right, too. That's something else we've talked about in the past, and he was such a beloved person. We've talked about St. Anne's Shrine a few times.
That's right. They're celebrating their 100th next year, you know.
Oh, we may have to take a trip again across the lake.
Yes, 100 years next year.
I don't mind telling everybody I run into that I'm always energized and inspired when I just step on that property.
That's right, yeah.
For all the reasons we know.
Yes. Yeah, well, 100 years next year. And I'm chairman of the board, and we're going to have some celebrations.
Are you really? Mm-hmm. You'll have to let Calvin know, and I'm sure he'll let me know.
Yes.
And we'll be there. Yeah. It's great to be a resident of this North Country, and it's great that people outside the area are finally recognizing some of the great things we have to offer.
Yes.
Celine, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
Keep smiling.
It's always great speaking with you guys. Thank you.
See you later. You know, those great lines in the old movie started with or ended with, "My hero." Hector Kaufman, how are you, my friend?
I'm fine, but I'm no hero.
Yes, you are. That was so much fun.
Belgium were the heroes.
I know, you keep saying that. And I got to tell you that we've had so much comment about that interview we did with Hector. Sitting there that night, you had me reduced to tears. I didn't even know how to ask the questions, but that was a lot of fun, wasn't it?
Oh, it was great. And the people in Belgium appreciated what you said and what we all said. I had a letter from them just 2 days ago.
Did you really?
Oh, yes.
They enjoyed their trip here?
Oh, yes. I think it's great, but it's nothing like the ones they gave me in Belgium.
Well, hometown cable isn't national television, but it's good enough for who we are, for the North Country.
That's right.
And we did have an awful lot of fun, and I watched the program. It was aired 9 times down in Plattsburgh, and I think I watched the whole 9 times.
Well,
and I just enjoyed it so much. It was so much fun meeting you, meeting your son, meeting your friends, and then meeting those folks from Belgium and seeing those wonderful scrapbooks that they put together.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't it amazing?
Yeah, it is. And I was in Plattsburgh shopping, last week, and a man from Plattsburgh came up and asked me if I was Hector Kaufman.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Whoa, say, no, I'm the late John Wayne. That's great to be recognized, because what you did is very, very special. And Calvin and I have known for a long time how important it is to get people like you to tell their stories.
Well, I was glad to do it.
It was a good time. It was a great evening for everybody.
Yes, it was. And then Calvin came up to the VFW and taped another show.
Did he really? He's everywhere. He's like Chicken Man. He's everywhere. He's everywhere. Well, you know what? There are a lot of stories to tell.
Oh, there are.
He gets up pretty early in the morning to make sure he's got those fresh batteries for that video camera.
Lisette is quite a girl. I mean, she is a great organizer. She's gotten people around the states here looking for children of my crew.
Isn't that amazing?
And she's found them. My co-pilot, 2 daughters, she met them before she came up here this summer.
Isn't that amazing?
She had some help by the radio operator's son, who works for the FBI.
Well, that helps. That's about as good a contact as you can get, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I think there's only about 1 crew member that she couldn't track down, wasn't there? 1 or 2?
Well, there's a couple. Our pilot, we lost track of him, and we really don't. I mean, we haven't heard from him since we parted in New York City. And the bombardier, we think we've found somebody that's related to her. I'm waiting to hear more.
Well, I know this gal is she's persistent.
Oh.
And I think she's going to find every shred of information she can.
Oh,
because
she
it's
will.
a story that just doesn't end, you know?
Yeah. She's quite a girl.
It was such a thrill to have her here, wasn't it? To have her husband here, even. She was the one that spoke the language better than a lot of the rest of us do. He couldn't speak too much, but we knew he was pleased to be there with her, because I know he's assisted her in a lot of the things she's done.
Oh, I'm sure. Because, you know, she couldn't do it without him, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And her father's still living, and when I went to Belgium a year ago, he doesn't talk English and I don't talk Flemish, but we both talk a little French. And we got together and had a great time.
It's wonderful. I'm so glad we got a chance to meet you and to do that show. I want to wish you the best of good health for at least another 35 years.
Well, I hope so.
Hector, thanks so much. Say hi to your son for us, will you?
I will.
See you later, my friend.
Yeah.
Bye-bye. Well, I have to say it's been an awful lot of fun for me to be involved in the 100th celebration for the Champlain Telephone Company at this office, service office on the Ridge Road in Champlain during this kind of blustery day in September 2003. You're about to watch a formal program. We've already primed the hostess, Gabby, and told her that she better do a beautiful job on her speech. We hope we didn't horrify her too much, but enjoy the program and enjoy the day, everybody. Thank you for watching our hometown cable show, Our Little Corner. Who knows where we're going to be next time for Our Little Corner.
What's a celebration without a cake? And this is a very nice one. We've got the blue 100 and the CTC inside of it. And it mentions the 1903 to 2003. Since CTC are also my initials, I've always enjoyed looking at their emblem. And they even have special balloons for the occasion. The formal program is starting momentarily. It's showtime for Gabrielle Giroux. As soon as Rick can... Whoop, there we go.
First, I just want to thank everyone for coming.
I'll show the people who aren't paying attention here.
Well, you're going to have to behave now. Can you hear me now? Okay. Can I get everyone's attention, please? First, I just want to say thank you for coming to the CTC open house this year. My committee planned over the last year of this event, as well as many other people in the company. And I just have a short little speech, and then Angela's going to do something, and we're going to have cake. So if you'd like to stick around. Great. In 1903, the Wright brothers had their first flight out of Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. Henry Ford introduced the Ford Motor Company, and the Boston Red Sox won the first ever World Series, beating the Pittsburgh Pirates. And Maurice Knapp, John Southwick, and Mr. Spellman introduced the Champlain Telephone Company to the Northern Tier. 100 years later, we have gone from a two-man show to a company of 40. We've gone from 555 customers to almost 6,000. The Champlain Telephone Company is so much more than employees and phones. It is a family of friends who have worked through dog bites, getting stuck on poles, splinters, ice storms, good days, bad days, new babies, weddings, and unfortunately funerals. At this year's 100-year celebration, our company has chosen to honor our local libraries, the libraries of Ross's Point, Moores, Altona, and Champlain. In 1903, libraries had their work cut out for them, as much did CTC. Many people didn't know how to read in 1903, and many people didn't have telephones. Today, however, reading is a central part of everyone's education. Books bring us climbing Mount Everest, dancing on the Eiffel Tower, to the middle of Times Square, or even to the pyramids of ancient Egypt. A book can grab your attention, change your mood, goals, and aspirations. Our libraries help us by offering us the gift of a free world within every page of every book. They are part of the community, but they lay in the universe of the written word by Shakespeare, King, and Homer. These places are just waiting to be discovered. I hope that all of us here will take the time to visit one of our libraries and take a trip on a journey that allows you to another land. The Champlain Telephone Company may not be able to bring you to the Eiffel Tower or to the middle of Times Square, but we can get you connected. We can bring you there by phone, by email, by IM, or by visiting a website. It has been a wonderful 100 years for CTC in the Northern Tier, and we will continue to be a family and a phone company for yet another 100. At this time, I want to thank a few people, the local libraries for being a part of this, for the troopers for being here to do identification cards, and for Jack and Marilyn Everett and their team for making such good food. And I want to thank you all for being here. At this time, I'm going to pass the mic over to the first ever public speaking of our new Vice President, Angela Rella.
Thank you very much. Very nice job, everybody. Appreciate it. Welcome on behalf of Trent Trahan and the employees of Champlain Telephone Company. We want to welcome you to our 2003 open house. I especially want to welcome those that didn't listen to the Weather Channel about bad weather and decided to come. It's our open house, so the weather has to be pretty good. This is a very special open house for us. This is our 100th year anniversary. And as some of you probably know, it wasn't too long ago, there were about 100 telephone companies like Champlain in New York State. And now there are just 30 of us left. And Champlain's success and its survival is because of the excellent leadership we've had over the years, the dedication and the hard work of our employees, both past and present, and the commitment and the support of the communities we serve. So we thank you all for being here. This is great. We're very much appreciative. There are a few honored guests I'd like to recognize at this time, and if you could just wave or people see you're here. First is Celine Paquette, City Council Legislator.
County Legislator, Clinton County Legislator.
I meant Clinton County Legislator. I didn't mean to demote you, I'm sorry. Jody Parks, who is representing the Plattsburgh North Country Chamber of Commerce. And Dory Kurtz, who is the Executive Director of the Industrial Development Agency.
IDA. Clinton County IDA Director,
I also want to thank Calvin Castine,
wherever he may be.
who is videotaping us, and he's done so much for us in the past. Thank you very, very much. And finally, and this is really most important, I want to thank Gabrielle and the team that she had, and all the employees of Champlain Tel for making this happen. As Trent or Chris Reno and I would always tell you, our employees make us look good, and they certainly did this time. So our thanks goes out to them. And please enjoy the day.
All right, very short program, it looks like. Oh, we're not done yet.
We have a cake, a 100-year anniversary cake that, are we going to be cutting it now, or? Okay, then we're going to be cutting it, and we want each of you to grab a piece of it. Thank you.
There's the official first piece ceremony. This will conclude our look at the 10th annual open house, but the main focus, the 100th anniversary celebration. The Champlain Telephone Company celebrating with the community and the kids here. They invited all the kids in for a hamburger and a soda, and this is going to conclude our coverage of this celebration. I hope you enjoyed this look. And thanks for watching and supporting our ongoing efforts.